There are 11 birds almost nobody raises that quietly pull in $3,000 a month, and they need zero land to do it. No acreage, no barn, just a backyard and the right knowledge. So why has nobody ever told you about them? And why does everyone keep the one bird that makes the least? Here's the full story. Here is the trap most backyard poultry keepers fall into. You start with chickens because that is what every video, every book, every neighbor recommends. You buy a flock, you build a coop, you wait 5 to 6 months for them to lay. Then you sell eggs at the farmer's market for a few dollars a dozen, barely covering your feed bill. Feed prices have jumped 30 to 40% since 2021, and they never come back down. You look at the numbers at the end of the year and realize you spent $600 on feed to produce $400 worth of eggs, and you call it a hobby because calling it a business would be embarrassing. The problem is not your work ethic. The problem is the bird. Chickens scaled into industrial agriculture precisely because they tolerate crowding and bulk feed. Factory operations raise tens of thousands of them in climate-controlled buildings with bulk feed discounts you will never access. That same trait that made them perfect for industry makes them a commodity for you. You cannot beat a commodity producer at their own commodity. What you can do is produce something they do not produce at all, something with no grocery store equivalent and no industrial competition. These 11 birds exist in exactly those markets: specialty meat that restaurants pay a premium for, game bird restoration that conservation groups fund, hunting preserves that need constant supply, exotic breeding stock that sells faster than anyone can produce it, premium eggs that have no supermarket version. These are markets with real, documented demand, almost no large-scale competition, and price points that make a dozen chicken eggs look like pocket change. This is not a new idea, it is a forgotten one. For centuries, small landholders across Europe and Asia kept exactly these kinds of birds. Squab from pigeon lofts fed Roman households and medieval estates. Quail were raised in Japanese cities on rooftops in cages the size of a bookshelf. Game birds were managed on English estates by gamekeepers who understood that variety was security. The diversity was the entire point. Different birds matured at different speeds, filled different markets, and spread risk across the whole operation so that no single failure could sink it. Industrial agriculture flattened all of that into one bird at massive scale because uniformity is profitable for the people selling feed, equipment, and chicks. The diversity did not stop working. It stopped being convenient for the supply chain. And the knowledge of how to raise these 11 birds quietly slipped out of the mainstream and into the hands of a small number of specialty producers who have been doing very well, very quietly, ever since. That knowledge is about to be yours. Bird 1. Coturnix quail. They lay at 6 weeks while your chickens are still months from their first egg. They produce 250 to 300 eggs per year, eat about a pound of feed per bird per month, and require almost no space. Quail eggs sell for $5 to $8 a dozen, and dressed quail for $12 to $15 a pound at specialty markets. 50 birds fit in the footprint of a single chicken coop. They are the foundation bird of this entire system. Bird 2. Muscovy ducks. The only domestic duck not descended from mallards, which makes them hardier and more disease-resistant. They forage up to 70% of their own food, hatch and raise their own young with no incubator and no heat lamp, and produce a lean red meat that restaurants compare to veal rather than the greasy duck people expect. Breeding stock and ducklings sell year-round to homesteaders who want self-replicating flocks. Bird 3. Guinea fowl. The best tick and pest control bird on the planet, and Keats sell for $5 to $10 each every spring to gardeners and small farms desperate for natural pest control without chemicals. A single pair produces dozens of Keats per season with almost no input from you. Bird 4. Utility pigeons. Squab, young pigeon, sells for $15 to $25 per bird to high-end restaurants. The birds pair for life, incubate their own eggs, and feed their own young, meaning your labor is almost nothing. A loft of 8 pairs produces well over 100 squab a year, and the restaurant market for it is consistent and underserved. Bird 5. Ringneck pheasant. hunting preserves, and game bird buyers purchase these by the hundreds every season. Chicks sell for $3 to $5, mature flight-ready birds for $15 to $25. The hunting preserve industry alone runs on a constant, year-after-year supply that small producers are perfectly positioned to fill. Bird 6, Chukar partridge. Same market as pheasant, with even higher demand from dog trainers who use them to train bird dogs, and from preserves running hunts. They mature fast, tolerate confinement well, and sell reliably to a market most people never think about. Bird 7, Bobwhite quail. The restoration and hunting market for bobwhite is enormous and constant. Conservation groups working on population recovery, hunting preserves, and individual hunters buy chicks and flight-conditioned birds by the thousand. This is a market most poultry keepers do not even know exists, which is exactly why it is so profitable. Bird 8, button quail. Tiny ornamental birds that sell as exotic pets and aviary stock. Low feed cost, minimal footprint, and steady demand from the pet and aviary market at strong per-bird prices. They occupy a corner of the market with almost no competition. Bird 9, Indian runner ducks. Prolific layers producing up to 300 eggs a year while patrolling gardens for slugs and pests. Duck eggs command premium prices from bakers who prize them for richer pastries, and breeding stock sells well to gardeners who want living, self-feeding pest control. Bird 10, Sebastopol geese. Ornamental geese with dramatic curled feathers that sell as breeding stock and goslings for $40 to $100 each. The ornamental waterfowl market pays prices that commodity poultry keepers would not believe, and the supply has never caught up to demand. Bird 11, Ayam Jamani. The all-black Indonesian chicken, black feathers, black skin, black bones, even black organs. Breeding stock and chicks sell for $50 to several $100s each, depending on quality and lineage. This is the single highest value bird most people have never heard of, and the breeding market consistently has more demand than supply. Let me be honest with you about how I learned this. I started exactly where everyone starts. A flock of laying hens, a coop I built myself, and a dream of selling eggs at the market. I spent a full year barely breaking even, watching my feed bill climb every month while my egg money stayed flat. I was genuinely about to quit when an old breeder at a swap meet looked at my setup, looked at my hens, and said one thing that changed everything. He said, "You are raising the bird everybody raises. Raise the birds nobody raises." He sold me a pair of Muscovy ducks and a trio of Coturnix quail for almost nothing. Within 2 months, the quail were laying daily, and I had a waiting list for hatching eggs from people I had never met. Within 6 months, the Muscovy hen had hatched and raised 12 ducklings entirely on her own. No incubator, no heat lamp, no help from me, and I sold every single one of them. I had spent $0 on hatching equipment and almost nothing on feed beyond what they foraged, and I made more from those two species in half a year than I had made from a full year of chickens. That was the moment it clicked for good. The money was never in the bird everybody kept. It was in the birds nobody bothered to learn about, sitting in markets nobody bothered to look at. Here are the mistakes that sink most people before they start. Mistake 1. Trying to raise all 11 at once. You will burn out by month 2 juggling 11 feeding schedules and 11 sets of housing requirements. Pick 2. Coturnix quail and 1 specialty market bird is the perfect start. Master those completely before adding a third. Mistake 2. Raising the bird before finding the buyer. The money in these birds comes from specific markets, hunting preserves, restaurants, breeders, aviary keepers, conservation groups. Find the buyer first, call the preserve, talk to the chef, know exactly what they pay and what they need before you hatch a single egg. Mistake 3. Pricing like a chicken keeper. A dozen Ayam Jamani hatching eggs is not a dozen barnyard eggs, and the buyer for exotic breeding stock is not the person haggling you down to $5 at the market. Different bird, different buyer, completely different price. Stop applying chicken egg psychology to premium markets. Mistake 4. Underestimating how little space these birds need. People assume more birds means more land. 50 quail, 8 pigeon pairs, and a trio of Muscovy fit in a space smaller than a single-car garage and can generate real monthly income. The constraint was never land. it was knowledge, and you are getting it right now. Picture your operation 1 year from now. 50 Coturnix quail laying daily and selling hatching eggs and dressed birds every week. A pigeon loft producing premium squab for 2 local restaurants who call you when they run low. A Muscovy flock that replaces itself for free and sells ducklings every single spring. A small batch of Ayam Jamani breeding stock, generating the highest per-bird income on your entire property. Guinea Keats going out the door every spring to gardeners who found you by word of mouth and tell their friends. None of it on acreage. All of it in a backyard footprint most people waste on a lawn they mow every weekend for free. You did not build a chicken coop. You built a diversified poultry business serving 11 markets your competition does not even know exist. Drop a comment right now and tell me which of these 11 birds you are starting with. I read every single one, and I will tell you which bird I would pair it with to build your system right. Subscribe and turn on notifications because the next video breaks down the exact housing, feeding, and market setup for the top 3 of these birds, step by step, so you can start this season. Your land was never too small. You were just raising the wrong bird. Now you know exactly which ones make the money.